Man, when it rains, it pours in the world of wrestling. And today we have a horrible case on our hands, talking about Jimmy Snuka, who was arrested for manslaughter. This is a case that's over 30 years old, dates all the way back to 1983, back before even WrestleMania, when Jimmy Snuka was one of the largest stars in the wrestling world. And this is a case that's been talked about. If you're a longtime wrestling fan, or if you've seen a lot of older shoot interviews with a lot of the stars of the 80s, this is one of the questions, like when RF Video talks to these guys, they always ask them about the Jimmy Snuka case, because it's just always one of those things that's always hung over, wrestling. Everyone's always wondered if Jimmy Snuka was always able to, get out of this because of his fame at the time, because of his high-flying moves. This would be about the time when, Jimmy Snuka was climbing up the top of the steel cage that Mick Foley always talks about, when he's main eventing the Madison Square Garden shows. Jimmy Snuka was just one of those guys that just everyone knew. By the time WrestleMania came around, WrestleMania 2, that is when Snuka's star was starting to fall. It fell all the way to the point where I believe he had his last WrestleMania at WrestleMania, is it 7 or 8? Whatever it was, he ended up being the first guy to fall to The Undertaker on the long streak. But this was a case that was recently reopened last year. One thing leads to another, and basically a piece of paper turned up in the autopsy that was ruled that this death of his girlfriend at the time was called a homicide. So they reopened the case and they dug through it, and it turns out that they're going to press charges on Jimmy Snuka, who was arrested today, and he's taken into jail to serve his case and see if he's going to be able to be proven innocent or guilty, or however it all turns up. But this is a case where basically Snuka said that he came home from a show. He went back to his hotel room where he found his girlfriend, and she was out of breath, and I believe he said that she had like a yellow sort of ooze coming out of her nose and her mouth. Snuka, this is how it gets weird, because there's police reports that say that Jimmy Snuka had told a certain number of people that he was in an argument with his girlfriend early in the morning, where he shoved her and she fell and she hit her head. Later, when asked about this due to the police, Jimmy Snuka said that those people had misheard him, and that they were driving down the road to get to the show. They had stopped off on the side of the highway to take a leak, and basically when she got out of the truck, she fell and she hit her head there, and he had nothing to do with it. There's a lot of stories about Snuka. I mean, I don't want to put names into this story, but there's a guy that I listen to on a podcast who's pretty famous in the wrestling podcast world, that just talks about Jimmy Snuka is not one of the guys that you want to hang out with late night. He gets these crazy eyes, and it just gets to a point when you're like, okay, I need to back out of this room because stuff's about to go down and I don't want to be a part of it. No doubt in my mind, Jimmy Snuka is one of the biggest stars to ever wrestle, but I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, I mean, if WWE at the time, or WWE now, I apologize, is going to have Hulk Hogan basically vanished from everything that's a part of it, I would not be surprised if they step up to the point where they're removing Jimmy Snuka's name from every piece of history on WWE.com as of right now. This is too bad. Of course, his daughter Tamina is involved in the Divas Revolution right now. She does the top rope, Jimmy Fly Super Snuka, the frog splash, whatever you want to call it, off the top rope. They had her on Tough Enough, where she was hitting all the people with this move coming off the top, and really putting it over that she was Snuka's daughter, and I guess now she's just Tamina. But this is a case. I mean, you go back, you watch those old shoot interviews, the guys have no problem saying something happened in that room. I mean, she, came out, when you look at the autopsy pictures of her, she's got cuts all over her body, her face, her arms, her hands, her legs, her butt. She didn't fall just one time on the side of the highway. Something happened. That's what New Jersey's going to have to prove against Snuka, and we'll see where this case goes. But it seems like as of right now, they mean business. Snuka's behind bars.